I think, even though it deserves a lot more discussion, and we've discussed on this program also, alternate ways of getting information and communicating with like-minded people. Instead of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, there are lots of other sites like BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey and many others where you can talk about things. So let's get back to talking about Thailand. So a very, very encouraging development is that free speech is making a comeback. Now, once was verboten, but there's been a development, and people are getting freedom of speech. So, Anne, can you tell us how people are getting freedom of speech in Thailand?
Okay, well, there's a graphic that I usually use with my talks that shows at the beginning, one guy is standing with a whip in front of like the big giant, crowds of hundreds of people, cracking his whip, and everyone bows down. And then the next picture, 5 people stand up and, okay, they're still in trouble. And then in the last picture, everyone stands up and the guy with the whip is running away. And so that's how it is in summary. And that turning point really has come in that after August and September of last year, there was a lot of breakthroughs of people coming out and speaking very, very directly and openly that the monarchy has to be reformed, that the assassinations of these 8 people need to be investigated, that it needs to be possible for the king to be accused of a crime, that the king should, his assets should be clarified and separated from all these other stuff he's grabbing, and et cetera, et cetera. They shouldn't be meddling in politics. And so there's this 10-point plan for reforming the monarchy, which nobody ever dared mention before, which now is basically the platform that is the basis of the gigantic protests that, the biggest ones are like 30,000 people coming out, and they're all chanting in unison, when these protests happen, for a while they were happening everywhere simultaneously. Like all the different provinces, and after the police, to try to evade the police, they would announce them, online at the last minute, gather such and such a place, and everyone gets there, and so, you've got thousands of people all of a sudden having a flash mob. These flash mobs didn't have a leader sometimes, and they would have certain chants, and one of the chants was basically, swear word king's name, swear word king's name, and so basically, I don't know if we could use the F word, but, it wasn't really the F word, but it's a swear word king's name. So it's basically like saying, F the king, F the king, F the king. So if you've got thousands of people in an endless crowd as far as the eye can see shouting F the king, you've really made a breakthrough, right? Relative to, anyone who even alludes to anything negative is immediately thrown in jail.
So everyone is shouting this all at once. And they're not shouting happy birthday.
Right. Right. And so all along this king, Wachira Longkorn, was not well liked. And everyone sort of thought that the disaster would be evaded in some way, that, the powers that be would rein him in. But the powers that be did not rein him in. And he started doing things so blatantly that it turned the corner. Now, I mentioned that there was 8 assassinations, and it was the 9th assassination that set off the student protests. Now, early on with these assassinations, when we first started out, Save Phi Yen, the first 2 assassinations, it was like, even among the refugees themselves, it was like, let's not say anything about it. It's just going to draw attention to us.
Right.
And so let's just keep it quiet. Let's keep it quiet. Well, finally, at a certain point, we said we've got to do a different strategy. This strategy isn't working. Everyone's dying. So we've got to be loud. But the very first time that an article was written, I can remember a reporter went to talk with Phi Yen, interviewed, and at the end of his interview, he says, "And who do you think is killing your friends?" And they said, clear as a bell, Wachira Longkorn, or the system. And so I went to, share this interview. It was an audio interview. And people just were like horrified. People on my side, we can't share this. We can't share this because we're going to endanger Phi Yin Band. How dare you share this? So everyone was so used to editing themselves. We always said, the highest levels or the regime or the state or something like this. Mm-hmm. And everyone starts editing themselves, and we never say what we really mean. Well, finally, after Wanchalearn was killed, and the king had also interfered in the elections, and he had, gotten rid of his, he got himself a second wife, and then he threw her in jail, and at this point people were like, no. I mean, these are people who are very liberal, they would believe in the Me Too movement and everything else, and they're just not going for it, right? These young people.
Right.
And so the protests start up, and the very first person to open up the discussion was Anon Nampa, who is currently in jail, one of the leaders. And he gave a speech, and he came out dressed as Harry Potter, and beside him was like this effigy of Voldemort, he who shall not be named. And he gave his speech opening up the discussion of the monarchy, dressed as Harry Potter with a Voldemort likeness beside him. Okay, and everyone was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, right? And so the next question is, okay, is this going to, is anyone even going to report that it happened? It only happened in front of like a few hundred people. Well, of course, they arrested him and threw him in jail. No. And the next thing that happened is like 25 people gather outside his prison reading his speech in unison from books.
Oh, wow.
And so, that was like the perfect, just gives me chills even saying it, like you can kill the messenger, but you can't kill the message.
Right.
And so he gets out again. And very soon at Thammasat University, these student leaders came up with their 10 demands for reform of the monarchy. And one of those demands was that the king could be accused of a crime. And another of the demands was investigate the assassinations of the people who criticized the monarchy or had other relations to the monarchy.
Wow, so just criticism is really punishable by imprisonment and, apparently in some cases, death. And so I'll ask you again before we wrap up here. Mm-hmm. But
I should mention that Port, his most famous song is called Pa, which means like pa, like dad.
Yeah. Okay,
and it starts out saying it sounds really like a really solemn tribute. This is real serious, and he says, "My father taught me well. He taught me to use reason. My father may not be a good person, but I think he's a good person." And you're already going, wait, this doesn't sound like a song for Bhumibol, the king,
right.
Before Whittier Longhorn. And then the next line is, I only have one father. Other people aren't the father of me.
Wow.
And so, he's really clever this way. And so he's a very clever writer. And he used to, ask questions. He would do it by asking questions, by saying things that are 100% true. I only have one father. It's true, right? But, he's implying something else. So you used to be able to, be accused of lèse-majesty just for implying something. But now people are just coming straight out and saying, no, this guy's a murderer and we want him investigated. And also he is worth $60 billion and gets $1 billion a year stipend to support royal stuff. Mm. And so it is just outrageous. He, with the 20 concubines, that's got to be sexual slavery. If you take your wife, get mad at her, throw her in jail, bring her back out, immediately fly her straight to your harem, that's sexual slavery. And people have had enough of it. And the student leaders, this wasn't emphasized either, but during some of the biggest protests, they took a petition and, I forget where they took it. Someplace officials say, investigate whether the king is involved in sexual slavery. Now, people don't report this openly. They'll say, they're asking for reform of the monarchy. And reform of the monarchy is about all you'll see in Wikipedia. But when you look at the specific demands, hardly anybody would even write them out. And right after the 10 demands came out, it was like, is anyone even going to report them? Are we going to even know what they are? And a pop singer, actually in a girl group, said, I'll show you what the 10 demands are. And she writes it out on, in her own handwriting with little hearts and, 1, 2, 3, and every bullet point is a heart or something, And she just posted on Twitter or whatever forum. Feel free to share. And so once the people got involved like that, it was over.
Well, involving other people is definitely something I'm hoping you can perhaps again point us to some of the websites or organizations that are online, because there is an entire global community.
Yeah.
And
well, if you're interested in
yes.
The case that we're really worried about right now is Port Fayenne. I mean, there's like 9 leaders in jail, and so we want to get all of them out. But I'm going to just keep going Port Fayenne, because I think I can do something about this one. So if you go to the website on Facebook, the page, Free Port Fayenne.
Free Port Fayenne. And
right.
Can you spell that for us? How would an English speaker spell that?
Free, P-O-R-T, Fayenne, F-A-I-Y-E-N.
Okay.
F-A-I-Y-E-N. Free Port Fayenne. Then you'll get to see all of that story. And if I have any petitions or anything like that, you can sign the petition at that website.
Right.
And if we get some information on Wanapa, this just happened today, Wanapa Compipot, who went to prison, left her 3 dependents behind, including, the plan is the 13-year-old is going to watch the 11-year-old. He has $50 right this minute. He has $50. So if anyone wants to contribute to Wanapa's children, she's a lèse-majesté victim. She's going to jail.
Right.
And, she was like, okay, I'm going to jail. Somebody watch my kids. Somebody please watch my kids. So if anyone wants to donate money to her, contact me through Freeport Fayenne or something like that. My name is Ann Norman. These things are not set up right now because they just happened, but there's many ways you could help if you just wanted to send money to the victims. They're collecting money for to buy special food for the lèse-majesté victims in prison. Port needs special food, so you could do stuff like that. That would be the best thing, and just be aware that this is going on. And we need to shame the government. Obviously, Thailand is based on tourism. It's based on tourism. I don't think that tourists want to fly to Thailand if they're going to see giant Kim Jong-un pictures everywhere, and the guy who's in the picture is as evil as Kim Jong-un.
That's always a warning sign, isn't
right.
it? If your
yes.
country has gargantuan, bigger than
right.
life-size portraits of
right.
dear leader everywhere.
And
that usually means that people are suffering in horrible
right.
ways.
And I once asked people to walk out of any Thai restaurant that hung a picture of Wachira Longcorn, but this is never going to come into play. Never happened.
Well, every little bit helps. And I mean, if you're local,
no. What I'm saying is, no Thai person is going to hang a picture of Wachira Longcorn at their restaurant. Okay. They'll hang the Pumipan pictures. But they never switched over to hanging the Wachira Longcorn picture because he is hated. And so do not believe the story that, the Thai king is beloved and we better not interfere. That was the former king that they could say that about. But now we realize that even Pumipan's good reputation is being completely ruined by the fact that he is the real father, not of the Thai people, but of Wachira Longcorn, who is a serial killer.
Oh my gosh. Well, didn't he even get kicked out of Germany?
Yes, he got kicked. Thank you very much. And that was a friend of mine who did it. Okay, I got to tell you how this happened. Okay, it was